Good afternoon, folks. Aunt Diane here. Today I'm going to discuss the Lifetime True TV movie, Identity Theft, the Michelle Brown story. The movie takes place in the Denver, Colorado area, although the real story takes place in California, but that doesn't really make a difference in the story. It's about a young lady who is a school teacher and always had a dream of getting a house. She always, ever since she was young, she had this picture of a beautiful little yellow house with a yard, and she worked very hard, saved her money, had an excellent credit record, and did all the right things. She was engaged to be married, and the only thing she could really afford, which she didn't mind, was a fixer-upper, because it was the house she wanted, and her fiancé happened to be a contractor and was specialized in fixing up houses. After discussing the house that she fell in love with her fiancé, she put an offer on the house. It was accepted. She then handed in her mortgage application to a company nearby. The man who was in charge was not in. However, his secretary agreed to take the application and give it to her boss as soon as he came back. The secretary's name was Connie, and she had a wish to get everything she wanted. She was always envious of other people and always assumed that everything came to them easily. She couldn't resist, and she actually got the mortgage information, like the Social Security number, the credit card numbers, and she went to town with it. After Michelle and her fiancé move into the house, they have a bunch of friends over to help fix it up. She doesn't know there's anything suspicious on her credit until she orders some pizza to feed all her friends for helping out. The card is rejected. She's like, oh, that's strange. I always pay everything on time. She used another card and that one's accepted. Meanwhile, we see Connie, the secretary, ordering stuff online, having it delivered. Some of it's not even out of the boxes yet. It just shows her sitting there, enjoying herself and her newfound money. She actually spies by Michelle's new house and takes a picture of the back of her standing up and, hugging her boyfriend and thanking him. And she's got nice, long, slender legs. And Connie decides she wants that too. Michelle calls the credit card company the next day to find out that a bunch of unauthorized charges were made on her card. So she cancels that card. But since the secretary at the mortgage company, Connie, had all of her information, her social and everything, and her other cards, she started spending away. The picture that she took of Michelle in front of her house when she was having it fixed up, she went to a plastic surgeon and said, I want legs exactly like this. She also purchased a brand new SUV, and the man actually commented, boy, you have really good credit. Connie then goes to the Department of Motor Vehicle to tell them she lost her license and that her name is Michelle Brown. But we're going to refer to her as Connie for the rest of this story. Connie gets a new picture taken, and she's wearing blue contacts because the real Michelle has blue eyes. She also dyes her blonde hair brown to try to look like Michelle as much as possible. Connie also gets herself a nice, swanky apartment using Michelle's credit and other credentials. After figuring out that everything in her identity was stolen, including phone calls from places that Connie spent her cards and used her Social Security, she went to complain to the police station. The officer that she speaks to, who I'm going to refer to as officer throughout the story, he's pretty unsympathetic. He's like, look, did you cancel everything? She goes, yeah. He goes, then don't worry about it. She's pretty frustrated because she's like, well, what am I going to do? Michelle is furious and figures out that it must have been the secretary at the mortgage company who took her identity. And, well, she didn't know she had her name yet, but she knew she took all her, Social Security, credit cards, etc. She goes down to the mortgage company to speak to the boss, and she finds out that Connie quit the job. And she said, well, what's her address? I want to go pay her a visit. He's like, no, I can't give that to you. She goes, either you give it to me, or when the police show up, you're going to give it to them. So he gives it to her. She shows up at the apartment, her old apartment, to find the place empty. I mean, it's got a bunch of junk that she ordered, but Connie is no longer there because she's in her new swanky pad now. But Michelle does not yet know this. After visiting a few of the places, including the plastic surgeon's office and the car dealership, who tells her she's in default, Connie had bought the same exact vehicle that Michelle had. And Michelle's trying to explain, no, that was not me. That was somebody posing as me. But I guess they didn't believe her. And that turned out being a bigger problem as time went by. So she goes to the police station again to speak to officer, who tells her, this girl has a big long record, and a lot of it has to do with drug smuggling and stuff. Now that all of Michelle's credit cards were closed down and her bank account was even closed down, Connie has no more money, so she goes back to an old associate of hers who is on the wrong side of the law and asks him for money. He says, no, I'm not going to give you money, but I have a job you can do to make the money. The job that Connie is sent on is smuggling drugs, which are hidden under bales of hay in a pickup truck. She does get pulled over for speeding. The drugs are found hiding under the hay, but unfortunately, when she gets arrested, she's arrested under the name Michelle Brown. Officer notifies the real Michelle Brown that Connie has been arrested. So everybody's happy, assuming that this whole thing is over. But it's not. She gets bailed out within a couple of days, I guess by her shady friends. And Michelle is also upset because she changed her bank and notified the payroll company of the school she works at to make sure that her next direct deposit gets into her new bank, which it did not, so her mortgage check bounced. Being optimistic that these problems will all be sorted out eventually, Michelle has the chance to go to teach some children in Mexico for a couple of days with one of her colleagues, which she's very excited about. However, when she's returning back to Denver, she gets arrested because her name is Michelle Brown. And no matter how much she tries to convince them, she's not that Michelle Brown. But now she knows the lady's using the name Michelle Brown. She's trying to say, no, that's somebody who stole my identity. Nobody believed her. But officer actually comes to rescue her, and they're all apologizing. I'm sorry. She's like, yeah, right. Without money or a job or nowhere to go, Connie is pawning off her personal possessions to get enough money to stay in a motel. After that runs out and the man's threatening to kick her out, she actually makes a very tearful phone call to the real Michelle Brown. And Michelle Brown is very sympathetic. She's a kind person. Connie says that she's going to end her own, life. You know what I mean? The man that Connie used to work for at the mortgage company, as well as officer, come to help Connie out and let her know everything's going to be okay. And she's actually brought into the police station at that point and wants to apologize to the real Michelle Brown. The conversation between the two women start out friendly enough, with Connie apologizing to Michelle and then saying, "Your hair is so pretty. Can I touch it?" And she's like, just backing up, and the cops are right there. They're like, "Okay, cut it out." She says, "Well, you have everything and I have nothing. Why can't you share what you have?" Some comments like that. Cops like, "Okay, this is a bad idea. That's it. This conversation's finished." Meanwhile, the real Michelle Brown, Michelle, gets in touch with an organization that works with people who have had their identity stolen to try to change the laws. Michelle shows up at Connie's sentencing hearing. She's only sentenced to 2 years, I guess for the theft part only. And at which point, the judge is acting like it's not that big a deal or whatever. There's crimes that are a lot worse. But then Michelle says, "Wait a minute. My good reputation has been stolen. If you don't have your good name, what do you have?" And she's absolutely right. Because of this case, laws have been changed to be stricter towards identity theft. We're not where we want to be yet, but there has been improvement, luckily. And there are things that you need to do to keep yourself safe. I know there are companies like LifeLock and stuff like that, and I don't have any personal experience with them, so you may want to check it out for yourself. But, who would have ever thought that your mortgage company would be the ones who stole your identity, right? I mean, that's a rare case, but, maybe it does happen more often than we realize. Okay, but we have to keep ourselves safe and look out for one another. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can, if you want to get to see the movie, my review, excellent movie, excellent acting. Okay, it wasn't some high-budget blockbuster film, but for a TV movie, I thought it was fabulous. But I saw myself getting very angry. I felt myself getting very angry watching it. But I am glad that it had a fairly good ending. I had heard that Michelle Brown was still having some problems sometimes, saying, "No, I'm not that Michelle Brown." Okay, with time, I guess it had gotten better with the new laws. And she did have everything to prove she was who she said she was. And I guess this movie had brought this situation more into the public eye. This movie can be found for free on the old Lifetime Movies channel on YouTube, of course. Also, I found it for free on the Roku channel, which is a free channel on Amazon Prime and probably on all the other TV services too. Until next time, I'll have something new for you next week. And if anybody has suggestions, please feel free to leave them for me. And I will see you next time. Love you. Bye-bye.